All right, folks, we are getting ready to go live with Robert Stanley. Really excited for this opportunity. Had him on the show a while back, and it was the podcast, the interview just went, it skyrocketed. Hundreds of thousands of people had the opportunity to listen to the interview. Robert has actually met Enki. Now, that's insane, but reality at the same time. The fact that Enki, the infamous, Enki's been talked about through the Sumerian tablets, through various prophecies. People have different names and links to put to that label of Enki. Some people think it's a title. Some people think it's an individual or an entity. Some people say Enki is Lucifer. Some people feel Enki actually manipulated our DNA to the point to what makes us what we are now, which there's a lot of evidence pointing to that. But was Enki a title? Was Enki an individual? Was Enki a god? Who is Enki? All great questions, but what we're going to discuss tonight mainly is this matrix, quantum physics reality that we're in that just seems like, even though something feels solid, it's not. It's a bunch of protons and neutrons and electrons oscillating in particular frequencies that make specific patterns that create what we see and think is reality. So it's imagination at the same time. So what is the matrix? What is the soul? Does everybody have a soul, or are there many Agent Smiths out there that are not really a soul, but more of a program? So these are going to be the main focuses of discussion tonight. And Robert, it's an honor to speak with you. How the heck are you?
Doing well, Rex. My name is Unicus.
Unicus Magazine.
Yeah.
It's funny because I mixed up a couple of the websites earlier, and we got that corrected. So Unicus Magazine, ladies and gentlemen, not Nexus. But what is, or Beijing or something right now? And the internet grows.
Yeah, we're getting hit pretty hard. Okay, let's see. I've got plenty of bars here. Am I coming through okay?
Did you hear anything I just said?
Yeah, but it literally was a Matrix move. You just went in like slow motion and your speech was all, yeah. They're not happy about this. Let me put it to you this way, okay? I've been debating whether or not to be completely honest with you and your audience, and I think it's time. I no longer believe the Matrix is real. That makes me a threat to the Matrix. So I'm planning to leave, but I think before I do, I wanted to share what I've learned about this simulation, and that is this is not my body. This is something that is projected by the simulation. A portion of my soul is connected to this body in the simulation, but I am not here. I'm outside the simulation, much like a person playing a video game. I'm controlling this body. However, it is also being influenced by all the other entities, programs in the simulation. So at this point, I am prepared to leave, but I'm not going to kill myself or this body, because this body isn't even alive. It's part of the simulation. There's no point in that. I'm not sure when my time is going to come, but when it does, I'm not coming back into the simulation.
Have you heard of the term body walk-ins? Walk-ins.
Yes.
Is that kind of what you're referring to?
No, everyone here who is a soul is remotely connected to an avatar, or what we think of as a physical body. It's not physical, as you said before. There is no such thing, especially in the simulation. Nothing is real in the simulation. It only seems real when you're in it. And especially if you believe it, it becomes real. It goes from a virtual reality in your mind to the reality. And that's where souls get trapped. So this is not just a prison for your mind. It's a prison for your soul.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. Is my audio okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So there is the Bhavakakra, which is the ancient Hindu philosophies of like the wills of destinies and karmas and desires, etc. And once you get out of the Bhavakakra, you actually have an opportunity to choose. Do you want to go towards the moon? Do you want to go towards the sun? And it shows Buddha pointing at the moon. And like, okay, that's where you want to go. But I think the moon might be some type of like soul recycling center. Now, this is just a theory. And yes, I'm a conspiracy theorist that does podcasts out of my grandma's garage. Let me ask my grandma to get me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a minute. You know, so I mean, my opinion isn't worth a whole lot, but I have been researching this for the majority of my life, just what's out there, why we're here, and what you're talking about is resonating with me at a crazy level, because I've often wondered, are we actually just experiencing this kind of like a virtual reality? Like when we put on virtual reality headsets, we're experiencing virtual reality. It's like a fractal within a fractal. So when you say, like, who is they? Who's actually keeping us trapped in this soul matrix? And please keep going. This is incredible.
We chose to come here to experience the simulation because it offers us experiences that we can't have outside the simulation. So this was all created by Enki outside the simulation. He literally built computers that generated the simulation. So we now call these things quantum computers because they can move through dimensional space and time. So he's projected this simulation that we chose to then enter on a limited basis remotely, just as I said before, like someone playing a video game. If you're playing a video game, you're not in it, right? But you're connected to it remotely. That is the same thing that applies to our soul. It is not here entirely. It is connected remotely to the simulation. So here's where it gets really dicey. Not everybody you see here in the simulation has a soul. There are many of us, or these bodies walking around, are simply part of the simulation. They're not connected to a soul. That's why the population has increased, but the number of souls has not. In fact, the number of souls here are decreasing. And this is one of the reasons that the Luciferians are doing everything they can to entice people to go further into the simulation. What I mean by that is they're creating a simulation within the simulation. This is what AI and the singularity is all about. They want people to not only believe the Matrix is real, they want to shield them from waking up to the fact that it is just a simulation, that it isn't real, and that they are not a body in the simulation. So what they've done is created a next step, another level. Like, it's called nesting, much like the Russian dolls, where you have one doll inside the next. This is what they're doing. And the reason they're doing it is because they know that quite a few souls are going to wake up or already have woken up at this time because the simulation is weakening. And it's time for a graduation, if you will. So what concerns them the most is that when all the souls have left the simulation, it will no longer serve a purpose and it will end. So for people, entities like Enki and his crew, they're deeply invested in this. This is their kingdom. This is their domain. And they do not want it to end. So this is one of the reasons that they increasingly have put pressure on us who are souls here to not only be distracted and confused, but also trying to draw us into deeper into the matrix. Sort of like a basement within the matrix.
So I'm thinking of Inception, the movie Inception. Is it
Johnny Depp.
Similar to that?
It's very similar to that. But that didn't get to the, like, Hollywood isn't going to tell us the truth. In fact, what they're doing is getting us to agree to things on a subconscious level. When you watch a movie, it's very much, it is a simulation. And of course, it's only two-dimensional, the way we look at things. And yet we find ourselves being connected to it remotely through our emotions and our mind, which is actually the soul. But if you've noticed, when you watch a movie quite often afterwards, if it's something that really you've drawn you in, you can actually feel the emotions and see some of the characters' residual images and feelings in your mind. So this is something that people need to be aware of. Hollywood is not involved in entertainment. They are educating us to believe the Matrix is real. So watching a movie is just another metaphor for what we're doing here. I mean, my father's guru, Yogananda, told many people that when meditating, it's like you're watching a movie being projected on a screen. He said, if you want to go realize who you are, turn around, stop watching the movie, follow the light back into the projector. Because that's where you are. That's your soul inside that light. So, I used to think this was all a big mistake. And now I believe that it isn't. It's actually being permitted by the true creators, which actually Enki is one. He does have a soul. He is a soul. He does have some issues, clearly, but he is serving a purpose. There's an unintended consequence for his wanting to create his own kingdom and being Lord God, Creator, Father of all. And that is, when he created the simulation, he thought he was getting what he wanted. And in fact, he was actually serving his parents, in a sense, by providing this simulation for us to come and experience. And why that's important, go ahead.
Okay, so you said his parents.
Yep.
Anu is, according to these ancient Mesopotamian tablets, his father. I have read probably 100 or so, approximately, these Sumerian tablets and spent countless hours researching them. And actually, it's interesting because Zecharia Sitchin, I've only read one of his books so far, and I was already able to, I don't want to use the word debunk, but find one of his definitions of the meh as not being a space travel suit, but something completely different, more like DNA, the building blocks of who we are, what makes us me, meh, me. So I think that the Sumerian tablets are fascinating, but they contradict each other so much. And like one Sumerian tablet will say that a specific deity is the sister or the lover of one other deity, and then the other one says something completely different. So who are the parents of Enki? That's fascinating.
They're not a physical beings. And this is part of the confusion, the distraction. We don't know. It's very difficult to describe what's outside the simulation. All we know is that the simulation, the Matrix, is actually a copy of something that does exist. All right. So when I say Enki's parents, it's no different than our parents. Our true parents are creator gods. And they're not just dwelling on a planet. They don't need a planet. They don't need a body. On the highest level, they are just pure consciousness. They can take any shape or form they wish. They can create any shape or form they wish. And they've created whole galaxies and universes. But what we're seeing here is not real. It's just a copy that we are participating in, just like any video game or a movie. It's a copy of reality. Okay? But there is a producer, meaning Enki, and they have writers, and the conflict rages on. And the name of this game here is good and evil. The duality here does not exist outside this simulation. The constraints that we're under here, supposedly as physical beings in these bodies that Enki created in a simulation, are very limited by design. and we are constantly being confronted by challenges, obstacles, and we have to comply or we are punished. In fact, even when we comply, even the elite are being punished, right? At some point, just being here is a form of punishment, but it's not real. It's a virtual experience. So again, our parents, not just Enki's parents, but our parents that we would consider to be divine creators, permitted all this to happen because we do have free will. We chose to come here. The big problem is that a lot of souls that came here got stuck and they forgot who they are, how they got here, and more importantly, how to go home. So it's not permanent though. This isn't a prison. This is not a life sentence or an eternal damnation.